Donnis Marie Redman, also known as Pinky, was born on June 10th, 1943. She's described as having been white, 5'2", 105 pounds, with blonde hair and blue eyes. There may be sources that have incorrectly spelled her name as Donnis, last two letters O-S. Also known as Pinky, as stated before, she had pierced ears and was last known wearing a yellow sweater and brown capris. When she went missing, she was 14 years old. On March 1st, 1958, Donnis went missing from San Pedro, California. Though most sources state that she went missing from Las Vegas, Nevada, there does not seem to be any actual proof that anyone saw her there. She's last known to have been with her boyfriend, Michael James Griffin, where they are thought to have gone to Las Vegas by family to elope. They were last seen in Michael's car, which was either a 1950 or 1951 Dodge Clipper with twin exhausts and a loud muffler. The car was found a week later in Williams, Arizona, which is a 3+ hour drive from Las Vegas. Interestingly, the car that they were in is stated to have Virginia tags on NamUs. This is speculation on my part, but it may have been an even longer drive, since some places had lower speed limits back in the day. The Los Angeles Police Department are said to be the ones investigating the case. Donnis's boyfriend, Michael Griffin, was 18 years old at the time of their disappearance, though all sources list his birthday as being around 1940. There does not seem to be any knowledge of the actual birth date. He's listed as having been 5'3", 120 pounds, with auburn hair and hazel eyes. His teeth had been straightened through orthodontia, with 2 or more teeth potentially having been removed to aid in alignment, and there's very little in general known about him in this case. I'm not sure what his background and family life was like. There have been 34 comparisons to Donnis's case on NamUs, with the earliest exclusion being a body found in 1967. There has been speculation, though, that Donnis may be a Jane Doe called Little Miss X, a girl whose remains were discovered on Halloween of 1958. LMX, which is a typical abbreviation for her, is estimated to have been 11 to 14 years old, 5 feet tall, potentially of Mexican or Native American descent, 105 pounds, and may have been deceased for 9 to 18 months before discovery. Because law enforcement buried her remains in an unmarked grave, no one can find her body in order to exhume it for DNA. LMX doesn't have any comparisons to her case on NamUs, which I am sure is because of this fact. The pathway to the Grand Canyon from Las Vegas would include driving through Williams, Arizona, as the town itself is known as a gateway to the historic site. If Little Miss X is somehow Pinky Redman, this may be a possible way that they got there, though it of course doesn't explain what happened to Michael. While the facial reconstruction of Little Miss X doesn't look so much like Donnis to me as it does another girl, Connie Smith, the items found next to Little Miss X include items initialed with a P and an R, a clue that has led many to think that she is Pinky Redman. Other potential girls that could have been Little Miss X include Grace Golden and Yolanda Torriguez, also known as Villa Gomez. Michael Griffin has had 43 comparisons to his case. There is very little known about him, and between the two, it seems that there is more emphasis on finding Donnis. I assume it has mostly to do with the fact that she was a minor when she went missing. Her mom had a relative in law enforcement that was able to get her listed as missing. According to the thread on Web Sleuths, it seems that Michael was not listed as a missing person until many years later, in what I believe was 2012. A post on Web Sleuths had someone comment in 2010 that they looked up Donnis on Ancestry, and they weren't able to find much of anything on her. They could only see that she was born in Los Angeles and her mother's maiden name was Morris. This still seems to be true from when I looked her up in 2022. Because of Michael's age, he was of course a legal adult. This fact may have contributed to him not being found, let alone looked for, as in the past, legal adults weren't looked for like children were. It's unknown what the condition of his car was when they left for California or when it was found in Arizona. I'm unsure if it was broken down, dirty, bloody, or inoperable. Speculation includes that the car may have been sold in an auction. There doesn't seem to be a Find a Grave page for either person. Donnis's parents passed away without ever knowing what happened to her. There was an article posted on the Arizona Daily Sun around 2010, where it talked about a skeleton that had been found in 2001. The body was in a casket crate for decades before its discovery. Though potentially a match for Michael, it was later ruled out to not be him. In 2013, a post was made on the Web Sleuths thread by someone who claimed to have been married to Pinky's nephew, and the disappearance was never talked about in their family. Donnis's mother passed away in 2012, I presume, and there is very little info known about Michael in the family scrapbook. Donnis may have had a half-sibling in New York, according to this poster. They never came back to the thread. I wonder how long Donnis and Michael knew each other. Was he a predator that was trying to hurt her? Were they just two stupid kids in love that ran away and got to Williams, Arizona, and their car broke down? Perhaps they hitchhiked and ended up somewhere far away. Is it possible that Michael could have been drafted into the Vietnam War at some point? The age difference may have been nothing back then, as many couples had gaps like that such a long time ago, or even bigger. Could it be possible, though, that Michael had family in Virginia, and they were going to make their way there? There is no mention of Donnis being pregnant, though I do wonder if this is a possibility. Back then, it would have been more acceptable to have been married instead of having a baby out of wedlock. Granted, if LMX is Pinky Redman, there's no indication that she was pregnant. According to web sleuther Issa, the first site of exhumation for LMX wasn't her, and in 2020, the authorities said that they might have another spot to exhume. I did some more research on my own and could barely find anything on Michael Griffin, other than what's already seen on websites like NamUs and the Charlie Project. Interestingly, there was a man named Michael J. Griffin listed on Find a Grave with a birth date of 1940, who passed away in 2016. It is very likely that this is not the man we're looking for, but I did find his obituary to be interesting. Mr. Griffin was married to a Diane Richard, whose birth date was listed as 1944. They're listed as having been married for 52 years, making their wedding date in 1964. In 2021, Diane passed away. Looking at a picture of her, though, I don't think that she's a match. But beyond that, there is nothing else known about this case.